One question, an amazing lineup of CEOs, founders, and experts. This is Marketing for the Now.
Super excited.
Can you hear me? To 50 it.
Thank you so much.
That made me feel.
Thanks for having me.
I love how both realize if you're back.
So glad to be
You really
Marketing for now.
How are you, KP?
Hi. You know what we did work on together was the Mike Tyson thing too.
We did. That was incredible. To Andrea's point, you've had an incredible career sitting at very senior levels of some of the biggest brands in the world in many different sectors. What's the connective tissue across all those different brands when you think about the framework of this conversation, the power of community? What's a takeaway that is true across the board? And what are some of the subtle differences when you're in different sectors or different brands?
I think the connective tissue for all of the businesses that I've worked on is the importance of culture and tracking cultural trends. Like every single one of those companies relies on being first to the market in terms of trends, entertainment, content, and sort of being on the leading edge of all of those. And so I'm really attracted to companies that do that. So I think that would be the link to everything.
And what about the differences out of all the brands you've worked on, whether it's a Playboy or a Pepsi or currently a Claire's, what in that Rolodex stands out as like, wow, that was an incredibly passionate micro community for that brand? And I'd love to hear it because there might be some double clicking into that might be able to help people.
Yeah. Listen, any company that I go to, I try to understand what the consumer is interested in. I call them lifestyle verticals. So it may be, sports was really big for Pepsi. Music was really big for Pepsi. For Claire's, gaming is really, really big for the generation that we're pursuing. The metaverse is really big for them. So I classify them by lifestyle verticals, and then we create strategies from a content perspective around each of those verticals. So and that changes from company to company and consumer segment to consumer segment.
What's been the biggest transformation in marketing from the day you started your career, and with all your big ambitions to where you sit now, from the form of distribution? Like, obviously we've had such a big transformation with the growth of the internet. Where do you think we are in the cycle of that? And like, what were the biggest disruptions to that? And because I think that has a huge impact on building communities. If you're marketing where people can't hear you, you're gonna have a tough time creating a community. If I'm giving a speech in an empty hall, I have a really tough time, even if it's the best speech I've ever given, of getting any ROI out of that. From a distribution standpoint, what have you seen in your illustrious career? Like, what's been the biggest changes?
I'm going to talk about, I think, what a lot of companies are dealing with and facing as it pertains to that distribution strategy, right? So it's like suddenly companies would create, 3 or 4 television spots a year. They now have to create like thousands and thousands of pieces of content a day to put across that distribution channel. It's like you've got YouTube, TikTok, Be Real, and a lot of companies are struggling with that. And so, I think that what the distribution pipeline has done, it's made brands need to become publishers of content, and that's not their first business. And so, we dealt with it at Pepsi. We ended up building our own content studio. It's like there's always a need for agencies, but to be able to develop and create content is a really difficult task for brands and businesses because it's not the first thing that they do. Their products are the first thing, their services, and then all of a sudden now you're a publisher. And, it also creates, I think, a lot of issues for brands in that, if they put something out and it's not well received, then they have to sort of deal with that as well. So, and a lot of companies that I talk to are really struggling with this.
What about the role of influencers to build community? Just thinking about the businesses you've been on, influencers have been such a important change, fame, micro fame, obviously, spokesmen and women have been iconic for 80 years in advertising, but now instead of it being 20 to 50 people that are in play, right? For every Kevin Hart, who's, you know, a modern famous person who's in a lot of commercials, you have hundreds of thousands of humans who are making $5, $10, $20,000 a year doing influencer work, all the way up to the bigger names that are making millions. You know, what do you think about influencers' role in community building?
I think that it's absolutely critical. And I think that you have to really understand your consumer. And again, sort of going back to lifestyle verticals, I think that you can classify the influencers that you want to link the business with based on what they're interested in. So for Claire's, for instance, you know, we're doing things in gaming. And you know, our consumers interested in design, our consumers interested in style. So it's like finding the influencer within those lifestyle verticals. And I sort of use that lifestyle vertical classification to help guide us towards influencers. And then, you know, I think that there's tiers of influencers. There's sort of the A-level celebrities that you partner with. And then there's the sort of micro influencers that you have to partner with as well. So anytime we do a strategy, it all starts with that lifestyle vertical classification.
What about parting thoughts here? We got a minute or two. What do marketers or entrepreneurs or executives here need to know about the power of community? Give me a subtle point or something that's obvious to you that may be obvious to others, but what's the most obvious point to you and what's the most subtle point when I talk the power of community?
Listen, the power of community for me and for Claire's right now is really about driving ideals and movements. And that is really, really important to Gen Z and Gen Alpha. And so tapping into that community for information and knowledge and leveraging it and giving them your platform to speak on, I think is what's incredibly, incredibly important. And if you don't have sort of the love and the support of your community, I think today, like, I don't know, you're sort of dead in the water. That community creates the momentum necessary, I think, to drive businesses today.